I'll just ask you to stand for our karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi aki ana ti ata kura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauriora. Well, good morning and welcome everybody, particularly our many public participants. We're looking forward to hearing from you. You'll each have 5 minutes, and I'm sorry, I know many of you wanted a bit longer, but we have had record interest in today's meeting, and don't fear, we have read your submissions and considered them, your applications and considered them fully. So public participation is just one way that you can influence our decisions here today. But just before we get into public participation, we need to deal with a few housekeeping matters. The first thing is that we have apologies. We have apologies from Mayor Foster. I move that we receive and accept those apologies. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Matthews. All those in favour, please press green or tick green if you're online. Lovely, that's carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Now we need to move on to accept the conflict of interest declarations. I'm aware that we do have a conflict of interest declaration from Councillor Foon, who I think is online.
Correct, Councillor Fitzsimons. Just a conflict of interest, a non-financial interest, as I'm a trustee on the Newtown Community and Cultural Committee. And we are giving them a grant, so I will step aside from I think it's 2.6, the multi-year grants.
Thanks, Councillor Foon. That's noted and appreciated. I'll now move on to the confirmation of the minutes. I move that we approve the minutes of the Grants Committee held on 16th of March. They've been circulated and that they be taken as read and confirmed as an accurate record of the meeting. Can I have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill, thank you very much. And everybody please vote for that. We'll now move on to public participation. That's carried. The first public participant is Bernie White from the Third Wave Foundation. Good morning, Bernie. As I said, you'll have 5 minutes. And if you'd like to leave some time for questions, please do so within that 5 minutes. Thanks very much.
I will do. Kia ora, thank you. Ko tapu nuku te maunga, ko te awa, kairangi te awa, no karori aho, ko Bernie White taku and goa, no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for your time to speak on behalf of the Third Age Foundation. Third Age, not Third Wave. It sounds like a different one. Te tuma ahonga toru. Our kaupapa is supporting seniors to flourish, which is supporting positive mental health that's brought about by focusing on the 6 domains of flourishing, which you'll have seen in our application: positivity, engagement, relationships, meaning, achievement, and vitality. So I'm here to say 3 things really on why we're asking for your support to establish flourishing groups in Pōneke and help people to flourish in their own lives. Firstly, I noticed from the services that the council currently provides that, as in lots of places across the motu, a lot of the focus is on the deficit side of ageing: functionality and access, exercise, diet, memory care, access, things like that. Little is offered in the way of positive ageing. And as new generations enter their third age, we see ageing differently from our parents did, the way our parents did. As a boomer, ageing is more likely to be seen as an opportunity for growth and further contribution. So the domains of positivity and engagement and relationships are fundamental to seeing ageing from a growth mindset. And in supporting our application today, the council would add positive ageing focus to some of the services that are already promoted by the council. Secondly, our focus is on engaging the potential of senior citizens. helping the wider community to see seniors as a valuable resource and to help seniors themselves to see themselves as a valuable resource. We live in challenging times. I'm sure everyone in the room knows that. Homelessness, inequality, mental health, climate, to name a few. Society needs all hands on deck, quite frankly, to be able to respond, appropriately to those. Government, business and community, young and old. So the domains of meaning and achievement are all about helping seniors to continue to be active contributors to their communities. And finally, we hope that you see our application as credible. We're focused on a very strongly research-based area of positive psychology. We have a strong board that includes 3 academics in the area of positive psychology and positive ageing, and 3 more operational trustees. We inaugurated less than 2 years ago on October, the International Day for Older People, October the 1st, and we already have 2 pilot groups running who are providing us with very positive feedback and also design input that's shaping exactly what we do and how we support groups to meet monthly to focus on those 6 domains of flourishing in their own life. Our program is 60% developed, and the remaining 40%, the intention is to have that developed by the end of June. And we also have ethics approval from Victoria and Waikato University to wrap university grade research around the impact of what we're trying to do, which is important to hold us to account. So in summary, we hope you see us as a credible applicant, helping to shift the perspective of seniors towards being seen as a valuable resource, and that our proposal, our application, expands and balances the services that are already supported by the council. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bernie, for coming in. There are no questions, but I just want to acknowledge the work that you do. I do know firsthand how valuable it is to the community, so thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
I'd now like to welcome Leah Thomas from Pōneke Freelancers Orchestra, Leah's online. Hi, Leah. You've got 5 minutes, and if you'd like some time for questions, it'll be within that time.
Morena, thank you for giving me a chance to speak today. Ko Lea toku ingoa. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and Ruben Brown, who's also directing this ensemble with me. He just had a work commitment, so couldn't pop in today. I've applied for this grant last year as part of Pōneke Classical Sessions. And that was to make a play with Long Cloud Youth Theatre. This time it's sort of the next step in this creative process in terms of building more spaces and professional opportunities for young people in Pōneke. The Wellington Freelancers Orchestra, we're calling it Gallery for short, is a new ensemble that's creating a training space and professional development opportunity for performers in Wellington. It does say orchestra in the application, but the ensemble is more than what you would consider a traditional orchestra. A huge part of our kaupapa is pushing the boundaries on what classical music is, and giving young people who are stepping out of their initial training not only the chance to play, but also to engage with what they want their artistic practice to look like and what direction they want classical music to move in. We have 3 projects were listed in our funding application. The first one is I think we've changed the dates since we submitted our application because that was about a month ago. But our first concert will now be on August the 17th at St. Peter's. And the lineup will include not only composers from New Zealand, but also Māori artists practicing tangaporo, who her name's Ruby Sole. She released an EP last year, and we're bringing her in to collaborate and arrange a part for the ensemble. So it's a platform for promoting not just young performers, but also young composers and conductors. The reason that we're asking for this funding and why we think the ensemble is something that is worth your resources is that there aren't that many spaces or opportunities still for young people to get professional experience at the moment. Classical music is one of the industries that was hit really hard by COVID because we practice in a way that often doesn't suit anything other than the green level. And a lot of professional ensembles have had to downsize, which has meant that the people who have lost out on opportunities the most are young people and grads. And we're starting to see a big wave of them leave to go overseas now that we can. So this ensemble is about encouraging young people to find their practice here in Wellington and explore what that means. Happy to take any questions.
Oh, thanks so much for coming in, Leah. That's really interesting work. And there are no questions, so thanks very much for your time and for the work that you do.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
I'd now like to welcome Eli, Joseph and Scout Liu from Spark and Flair New Zealand, who I think are here today. Good morning. You'll have also 5 minutes.
I prepared a slide to go along with it. I've never used this system before, so how does that one work? Fantastic.
Look at that.
And there's a clicker. I'm assuming that's what I need to work with. Fingers crossed. Kia ora. I'm here today to speak to the Living Wage for Events Fund. My name is Eli Joseph, and I'm speaking on behalf of Spark and Flair. I guess a good place to start, is with our kaupapa. So we started 3 years ago, just after the first big set of lockdowns. We were working to create opportunities for creatives to connect with audiences. And that was based off the deep belief that art and creativity and expression is vital for the health and well-being of not just the creatives, but the communities that they exist in. So that has been our mission statement, and we've done this through advocating wherever possible for artists to be treated as professionals with the support and infrastructure and resources they need to do their jobs. A lot of us are in it for the love of the art, but for that to be sustainable, especially now, it needs to be seen as a career. So we are applying for the Living Wage for Events Fund because we feel it aligns with a lot of our values. I'm aware that we are asking for a large chunk of the fund, so I thought I would speak as to why. A standard buskers festival format is a really intense week, not dissimilar to Cuba Duper. We are aiming to space this out over 2 months. Every Thursday through Sunday over January and February, we will bring Wellington's waterfront and central streets alive with all sorts of art and performance and make it as accessible and as diverse as we possibly can. That includes standard busking and street shows, roving characters, live street theatre, access for community groups to showcase what they're able to bring to the table rather than just to focus on professionals, so allowing our community and cultural groups to show what Wellington has to offer. And as well as this, we're partnering with the Urban Dreams brokerage to provide a late night festival club venue for the sort of stuff that is still great and creative but not suitable for public and family performances, which provides a vital part of our professional arts infrastructure, I'm not going to lie. So what this looks like is taking into account the pre-existing buskers festivals that happen in the middle of the period we are asking for, and events like the Performance Arcade, which will take up 2 weeks of the waterfront. We are going to put our buskers as the spine of the festival for two-week periods on either side of the standard busking festival season, supported by performances in Frankett's Amphitheatre and on the northeast face of Te Papa to showcase the architecture and performance spaces the city already has. Is supported every 2 weeks with a gala showcase for families to gather for 2 hours of high-class, national quality entertainment for free, accessible on the Wellington waterfront to make use of our public spaces. And our central city also contains roving characters, pop-up performances, all sorts of offerings, as well as live music, and all of these events are free, koha or donation. As well as that, we've got our late night cabaret offerings Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights through the busiest summer months. And proceeds from all of these performances and all of these offerings go towards supporting the Wellington Free Ambulance, a tangible and material acting of the theory that arts supports the health of our community. So, it is a large slice of money, but it doesn't just go directly to support the artists. While the most obvious connection is supporting the community through giving people the chance to access free entertainment and then give back to a good cause, one that is severely overburdened in our current situation, bless COVID, A lot of Buskers festivals will focus on showcasing professional artists. We want to widen that to showcase our local community groups, our local cultural groups, our local performance groups, the groups that would have been making work during Fringe, like the Wellington Footlight Society, and our theatre companies who are now looking for performance opportunities. We can provide these to the public and pay them for their time. We also want to focus on developing upcoming professional artists with a specific focus on Māori, Pacifica, queer, and other minority groups. The ongoing funding that this grant would provide means that we have the opportunity to build a touring network. So we can bring work into Wellington and also send Wellington's work out to a wider national and even international scale. Internationally at the moment, we have a worldwide Buskers Festival network running in parallel to Fringe festivals around the world. And we have the opportunity to bring Wellington into that and showcase what our creative capital can do on a global stage. Alongside this, we have the people who make events happen behind the scenes. And a lot of those people are struggling to find the work or burning out trying to make things happen without enough resource at the moment. To that end, our 4 core production roles will be supported with a paid mentorship position so that people wanting to come into this industry have got practical paid opportunities to learn those skills on the job and also help supplement the workload of the people in those roles so that we're not facing burnout from year one.
Eli, that's your 5 minutes, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming in and sharing it with us. I'm sure you'll make Wellingtonians very happy, and it's lovely to see the relationship with Wellington Free Ambulance as well. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
I'd now like to ask Simon Bowden and Fiona Prestige, who I think are on from Strathmore Park Community Centre on Zoom. Good morning. You also have 5 minutes, and if you want some time for questions, please include it in there.
It's fun. Kia ora koutou. You can hear me?
We can, thank you.
Te whānau o me hiki ki pōna ki tēnā koutou I tēnei ata. Ko Simon Bowden tōku ingoa, he mana kei Strathmore Park Community Centre Trust, kei te moto kairangi aho e noho ana. I'm the chair of the Strathmore Park Community Centre Trust. Fiona.
Kia ora, Fiona Prestige, manager for the Trust, the 2 community centres.
Hey, te whānau, we're mainly here to say thank you to Wellington City Council for the caring support demonstrated to Strathmore Park community. That has been demonstrated in a number of ways, and to give you a quick overview of some of our activities. Our trust started its life in 2016 and now manages 2 community centres, one at 108 Strathmore Avenue and the other at Kāwai Street. And after some initial period of challenges, we are enjoying some stability, even with the challenge of closing one centre for refurbishment and the recent loss of one of our community centre coordinators just due to an immigration issue. Board and staff names are on the next slide. And one of the key things to note is the capability that we're developing to be reactive and responsive to ethnic and migrant communities, which take up quite a big part of Strathmore Park, and our increased capacity to have a te ao Māori perspective, both on our board and also through the establishment of a Rōpū Māori, which was it's more of a fluid group which gives us regular advice, an idea that was given to us by Ray Penny Mercer. We are particularly grateful for now over $2 million that has been put into the development of 108 Strathmore Avenue, an image of which is on the next slide. And we are undertaking a fundraising campaign for furniture ourselves, which is just as much about giving people an opportunity to participate in the development for ownership. It is about raising the $40,000 we need to contribute alongside our reserves to the furniture that we're going to put into it. In addition to working on the practicalities of maximising space and keeping people safe, we engaged our Rōpū Māori in the design of the centre, wharikai, pōwhiri whakatau, etc. And this led to engagement with mana whenua and kura moiahau, which resulted in the engagement of Pōkau Te Ahururi, who has designed those wonderful screens that you see on the outside of the building. Also another image of that on the next slide. And we think this is really going to be the first major sculpture in Strathmore Park. Since then, we've met again with Kura to receive stories that will lead to a new kupu ingoa Māori for the centre. And we already have seeing some momentum towards the use of te reo Māori and the inclusion of te ao Māori processes within our community day to day, which is really exciting. And we see that this will be a growing thing for Strathmore Park. With our partners Kahurangi Friends, which are associated with the school, there is a commission for some new music by Mara TK based on stories gifted by Ray Penny Mercer, which is underway. And the stories and the music and the ideas from kura, all this IP will be in the guardianship of Aotearoa and will be seen as an ongoing resource for identity in the community. You're seeing on the screen now an image of what we call the people of Strathmore Park. It's a series of videos with people simply saying hello in their own language, goodbye in their own language, and why they love living in Strathmore Park. If you have a minute, I really highly recommend that you go and look at that. It's a wonderful sort of identity piece. What we've found is that by grounding and getting ourselves in the right place and a right starting point with Māori, that other cultures in Strathmore Park are coming forward to have their identity expressed and shared through the community centre. And Fiona's now going to give you a quick update on some of the things that are happening day to day. Fiona.
Kia ora, mute myself, it will help. So day-to-day life, the volunteer base is growing and stable, and that enables activities and services such as weekly kibosh rescued food parcels by both centres, and Freshen Up for School, which is our flagship event held each term holidays, emphasising wellness and wellbeing and feeling good for our rangatahi and tamariki. The 7-month closure while the main centre is being refurbished means we're managing services through hour-by-hour usage of a variety of nearby facilities, Plunkett Room, a church hall, and some neighbouring use of other community centres. And also we have extended our opening hours at the Rokawa Community Centre through to 6 p.m. 4 days a week. The reopened centre is going to give fresh opportunities for developing programs and services and see more extensive use on a higher basis by local whānau and community groups. It will be an exciting season for us and the community.
Kia ora, Fiona. So we just leaves for us to say that we're incredibly grateful for Wellington City Council support you've been giving, and this grant that you give to us underpins all of this great work that we do, supports Fiona and the team to do their great mahi. And we really want to say thank you, especially to councillors, Sarah Free, who's a regular at the centre, the team and the community service, such as Alaka, Jenny Rains, Donna Wilson, Mark Farrar. We've also had great service from Lisa Matthews and Natalie Clausen on the capital development, and even Eve Armstrong and the public art team. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks so much. And you can't see it, but there's a lot of warmth in the room from councillors towards you and the work that you do. So thanks so much for coming in.
Ngā mihi.
So next we've got Suzanne Ames and David Cameron from Citizens Advice. Welcome along. You've already heard the drill.
Yes.
Over to you.
Kia ora. Ko Suzanne Ames Toko Ingwa. I am the area manager for the Wellington Citizens Advice, and this is my colleague.
Hi, I'm David. I'm the deputy chair of the board, and I'm also a volunteer at the Citizens Advice Bureau, and also at the Citizens Advice Bureau, the budget service.
All right. First of all, thank you very much again for the opportunity to seek funding. This is the mainstay of our program, and we're very grateful for that. As you know, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Citizens Advice. We've been around for 50 years in New Zealand, and I think since 1993 in Wellington. And we provide a core place for people to come when they have questions they need to unpick and not a clear place to do it. We provide, and I've got a slide, I think, was it? Okay, cool. So this is just a wee summary of what we do. I think what the core thing of what we do and the hardest thing to measure is that we offer a safe space to people in those difficult moments when they're not sure, and a place to be heard and then to start finding solutions. All the resources that we offer are also online, and we have a community directory. So people can reach us in person through phone and email, and also just do their own research when it suits them. And then finally, one of the things that we offer is the ability to look at social policy trends and identify things that might need some action. And recently those have included crossing the digital divide, providing more resources to people who aren't as able to work with computers, and looking at developments in Tennessee, like the need to address flatmating situations. So we provide support sort of from the global level right down to the individual level, and are really keen to keep doing that. It's been a challenging few years for us between having to move from the library and then dealing with COVID. And like many organizations, we're emerging from that and looking to see how we can rebuild community partnerships, help some of the people that we work with, and look at some of the resourcing challenges that we're facing. We will probably be coming back and asking for a bit of help with the Betty Campbell Fund next month. And yeah, just seeing what the future holds. So thank you again for your help. We hope to be a recipient again this year. And at this point, we'd like to see if y'all have any questions.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming in. And I do have a question, actually. My mum is one of your volunteers in Hastings, and tells me a lot about the great work that you do there, but I know it's duplicated around the country. Can you just give us an insight into the types of issues Wellingtonians are raising with you at the moment?
I can certainly send through our most recent summary. I think, you go.
Yes, interestingly enough, it's quite a seasonal thing in Wellington. For example, when the students come back to the university, we get lots and lots of issues on renting and student flats and accommodation. And actually, at the end of the term, it's the same thing. Can we cut our lease short? Can we leave now? We get a lot of immigration issues. We deal with a lot of immigration. And the budget service is a very busy part of the Wellington Citizens Advice Bureau. So probably the main things we do are renting issues and immigration issues. And of course, the old perennial that often comes up is people having problems with neighbours and so on.
Yeah, no, very good. Well, thank you. You are on the front line of helping our residents, and the work is appreciated. So,
Suzanne alluded to, I mean, there's 5 Citizens Advice Bureaus in the Wellington area, and over the last year we've seen just over 14,000 clients, either online or face-to-face.
Cool, lovely. Thanks so much. And we'll look forward to hearing about your accommodation issues and hoping to support you in that as well. So thanks so much for coming in today.
Cheers.
The next person is Erin Gribble from Newtown Community and Cultural Centre. Hi, Erin. How you going? You know the drill.
And I've got slides. And a clicker. Kia ora everyone, ko Erin tōku ingoa. I'm Erin from the Newtown Community Centre. My time has been cut in half, so we're just going to barrel on through at pace. So hopefully you know a little bit about us. We do a whole bunch of stuff. There's a giant list. I can't even have enough time to go through it. But one of the main things that we do is that we manage council-owned venues on behalf of the council, on behalf of the community. We also have a couple of sub-organisations under us which also have staff and a whole big projects within themselves. One is called Smart Newtown, one is called the Newtown Tool Library, and one is called Wellington Time Bank, which actually gets different funding. Thanks. Cool. So firstly, I do want to say thank you for our current funding and the partnership that we have. We really are grateful. But prior to the financial situation that we're all in now, that we're aware of, the cost of living and inflation kind of crisis, we have felt that we've needed more money to be able to run our programs and our centres. So I am here to just address that again. We have raised these concerns at many different levels of council and many times. You may remember being me a year ago before the price of cheese was so high. So I just want to let you know that the funding that we've got currently is really, really hard to do the things that y'all want us to do and that we want to do and that the community deserves. Cool. Some further background. We feel that we are really important and what we do is really important to you all, and we note that we mentioned in a lot of Wellington City Council plans under the social and wellbeing framework, for example, and just how we're really trying to achieve those goals, but we're under the pump. So we've got quite a few different expectations, such as our outcomes from our contracts. We also need to participate in a few Wellington City Council events, And we're also referred to by many different Wellington City Council departments for support in different things, such as consultations and such as all those awesome projects like cycleways, the People's Platform, all that great stuff that we love. I just kind of want to mention all this to really refer to the partnership that we have with you and how we think that we are good partners. But due to that relationship, there does come an extra burden of work for us, which we are happy to do. Cool. So a bit more further background is that we noticed a few years ago the pay disparities between council-run community centres and trust-run community centres, and how essentially they're funded quite differently. And what that's kind of created is a wage disparity where we know a lot of our colleagues in trust-run community centres are paid really, really low in comparison to council-run community centres, and that actually our job descriptions are quite different. For example, myself and my colleague Ellie, who's here today, between us we manage about 9 staff, whereas a Wellington City Council coordinator for a community centre doesn't manage any staff, nor do they manage contracts in the same way, and nor do they they don't have the support of the entire Wellington City Council to say, create policy for COVID. You know, we're really little guys on our own without all that amazing support. Even though, don't get me wrong, you guys do support us, it's different. And yeah, so recently I was paid just $26 an hour to manage 4 venues, like 8 staff. Like, it's tough. It's getting tough. Yeah, we're in the sector that a lot of our colleagues, me and Ellie, have gotten pretty good at saying no and not doing that anymore. But definitely in our a few years ago, we would do a bit of unpaid labour, and I really feel that is something that isn't acknowledged that does happen within our community spaces a lot. And partly that's because the job just can't get done safely and effectively within the hours that we're also provided, which are set by the amount of contract money. Sorry, I'm really barreling through this. Yeah, so thank you so much for the money. Why do we need more cash? So to pay our people more fairly, we need such a huge skill and talent set, and then we're offering really not a huge amount. Yeah, so at the moment we're recruiting for both Wellington Timebing and Smart Newtown, and we're offering $23.50 per hour. So that's a block of Colby cheese at the moment and a block of butter. That's just a bit of dairy. Minimum wage is $21.20 and the living wage is $23.65. So it's really hard for us to actually currently retain staff on this, and yeah, just the cost of training staff, onboarding costs, turnover costs, all of that is really having a huge impact on us. Also, yeah, it's just not really.
Erin, I'm really sorry, but we've just run out of time. But look, I just want to reassure you that we have read the application. We're really well aware of the work that you do, and just thank you for coming and sharing.
If you could also check the slides, I believe they're emailed out to you because I had some more great points.
We'll make sure they are. Thanks so much for your work, Erin. I'd now like to welcome Liang Wells from the Haitaitai Community House. Hello there. If you just come to the platform and like the others, you'll have 5 minutes, and if you want to leave some time for questions within that, that's fine.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou, ko Liang tōku ingoa. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Haitaitai Community House. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out which button. I just turned it off, didn't I? Sorry about that. Here we go, sorry. What's our vision? Our vision is to have a well-connected community that has a vibrant hub and the well-being of the community being well supported. We'd like to have our operations maintained in a sustainable way by our paid staff. Volunteers will always be a huge part of our community, but we think it needs to be coordinated by paid staff in a positive and passionate way. We'd like to have our core volunteers having enough capacity to focus on key projects within our community. And we want to be able to maintain and implement community initiatives that we think will benefit our community, in particular our most vulnerable. So our current level of funding is about $54,000 excluding GST, but the reason why we can run at such a lean way is because we have a significant volunteer base, but we're reaching volunteer saturation and we're at risk of volunteer burnout. Currently, our volunteers give about 3,500 hours per year, and that amounts to nearly 2 full-time equivalent staff members. So we'd like to operate in a way that's sustainable for us. Like Erin was saying, our staff are doing unpaid hours, and we'd like to be able to give them all paid hours. And our volunteer base is really stretched, and we need more core staff to be able to supplement our volunteer base. And we also want to do more for our community. We've got a lot of programs that we'd like to run that we think will benefit our most vulnerable. And so we're asking for a little bit more. What the funding currently gives us is 3 staff members who are all part-time. It totals about 31 hours per week, and that's less than 1 full-time equivalent staff member. We run a whole range of community programs, including community events, distributing a quarterly newsletter and strong social media presence, and a whole range of other things that I don't have time to talk through, but they're all there. With the funding, we get access to 2 facilities, one being the Hatata Community House, which has a really strong early childhood education focus. We've got a kindy there and Plunkett, and we run playgroups out there 5 days a week. But we also have the Hatata Centre, which is, doesn't actually receive any funding directly from the council, but we run it like a community facility because it was gifted to the community by the old Hatata Bowling Club. And we think this is an amazing facility. It's got community classes there, and it's got community events being held there, and things that aren't charged to the community house to be used. It's got a space there that the community house doesn't have that could bring the community together, and it's got an amazing flat green that the community well uses. So in essence, we think the council is getting the use of 2 amazing facilities for the funding it gives the community house. I wanted to talk you through some of the achievements that we've had to date, but I may run out of time. But a couple of things that we think we do is, things for the cost of living issues that we're having at the moment. We've got a period poverty basket, which is a take what you need, give what you can basket. And we've already seen some real interest in that from both the taking and the giving aspects of that basket. And we also have seen a growth in our fruit and veg co-op participation, and we think that's because of the cost of living and how expensive fruit and veg are getting. And we've had some successes in helping the Men's Shed charity find a coordinator, which we think is going to be great for our community. It's housed next to the village green, our green, sorry. It will not only benefit the people who are part of the Men's Shed, but it's also going to benefit the wider community with the assets they build. For example, we're going to hopefully start with rat traps for predator-free Wellington, so I think that'll be amazing for us. We've got other successes, which I will skip through. We wanted to show you that we are making an impact on our locals. We've got people who tell us that they feel like a true local being part of our community. We've got people who get to work with younger people and feel young, so that's amazing. And we've got people who, prior to being part of us were, saying they don't leave the house unless going to see a doctor, but now they're helping us run events and really being part of our community. So, it's so amazing. But the reason why I'm here today is because we've got a huge volunteer stretch. The Hatata Centre is in real need of development. It's been designated as earthquake prone, and the community is getting together to form a working group to raise money and to build the development.
And I'm sorry, you've just used up your 5 minutes, but it sounds like we do need to have some ongoing engagement about that important issue. So
yes.
I encourage you to definitely keep having those discussions because we will want to find a way to help you through that.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You'll see the slides.
Yes, we will. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Next, I'd just like to invite Susanna Lees-Jeffries and Lester McGrath from the Royal New Zealand Ballet. You're seasoned performers at this, you know the drill.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity of presenting to you today. With the limited time, I'll just cover a couple of things. Obviously, our application was for a greater level of support under the multi-level grants, but all things considered, having looked at the recommendations that have come through and seen the approach that's been taken, I congratulate you on the support that you're giving the organisations, and with a couple of notable exceptions in there around the priorities. So We're strongly in support of the Ahotini strategy, and so we stand here in support of that today. And if the potential ways we can leverage and partner with the city going forward, we have a major stake in the city, and we're always looking for opportunities to broaden our reach and engage with the communities. And take Wellington to the rest of the country. We're proudly made in Wellington and tour nationally. I should mention that we have had success, obviously, with our government funding. You may have read about that in the press. This has been a long time coming for us. It is only our second increase in 13 years. And it's very much dealing with our cost issues and our base cost issues. One of our priorities, certainly since I've been with the organisation, is to get dancers' salaries up. Prior to 2020, 40% of our dancers earned less than the living wage. And so it has been an absolute priority. If we value artists and the contribution that artists make, we need to recompense them. So this discussion that we've had with the government over this time is very much focused around that. And it sets us up, getting that baseline up will set us up for the next 4 years. We're very excited to be moving back into St James and working with Council to get to that point. It has been a long time coming. When we look back at the history, we were originally going to be moving out of the St James in 2018, going to be back in there by the end of 2019. So we've just lodged our building consent. That went in yesterday for the refurbishment work. We have successfully raised $3.6 million for the work that we're going to do in terms of setting up the facilities to take the company through for the next 30 years. And it's very basic facilities. It's toilets and showers and dancer facilities and wellbeing facilities. So, but it will, I think, potentially mean that there's an opportunity to leverage off the work that the company does with those facilities and really think about what does a home company mean and what does a home company in Wellington mean with the St James, and how does that activate the life of Courtney Place, the presence that we have on the street, and really, deliver with the other stakeholders to look at the well-being of that and the development of that part of the city. It hasn't been without its struggles, obviously, getting to this point, but it's going to be a great day when the St James is back in action. I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you so much for coming in. We do have a question from Councillor Young.
Hi, thank you for everything that you do, and also it'll be great when you bring some life back into that rather difficult part of town. Just on the very basic question of the lavatories, that was a really big issue. So you said that you have raised money and you will be installing new lavatories. Will there be enough lavatories and showers for the dancers? Because before there was something like one, I think.
Yes, we're effectively doubling the size of the toilets. No, there's more than two. We're doubling the size of the changing facilities, the toilets and showers. So, I mean, you've got to think about it with a dance company. If you've got 38, 40 dancers in the 15-minute break, yeah. they all rush to use the bathroom. So we will now have enough facilities, yes.
Great. And when do you actually move in?
Well, this is a slightly moot point. We are working on the program at the moment. We will have the program which we'll be able to share next week, but it is looking like best case scenario January, February next year.
When you move in when it's your home again?
Yes, yep. when the works are all done and we can move in. Right. We have a slight complication in that we're currently meant to be out of the dance centre in September.
Yes. Well, I'm sure that will be sorted out.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in.
One thing I would like to say, I'd just like to acknowledge Councillor Simons and Councillor Day. We're aware that you're retiring, talk of retiring, and we would just like to thank you on behalf of the company and the broader arts sector for all your service. It's
That's
greatly
very
appreciated.
Nice. Thanks so much for coming in. I'd now like to welcome Drew James from the Creative Capital Arts Trust. I think... Hi there. You have 5 minutes.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Drew James, Taku Ingoa. I'm the Chief Executive of Creative Capital Arts Trust. We're here today to talk about New Zealand Fringe. New Zealand Fringe has secured a place in the heart of the development of new talent and works in New Zealand over the last 32 years. Since Creative Capital Arts Trust took over the Fringe Festival, we've tripled the number of artists that have been a part of that festival. That's really the result of the demand of those artists. Wellington City Council funding has been consistent over that time, but has remained static other than CPI increases over the last 4 years, and currently the recommendation will leave it in that same situation for the next 3 years. We're very grateful for the current recommendations from the officers, but we also would like you to consider the increases that we have also requested. We understand that funds are limited, and we request that the councillors consider at least an additional $35,000 for our artist capability building program. This helps us assess and deliver the living wage funding directly into artist pockets. The direct result of this will be the ability to be able to offer a 12-month artist and venue manager role, an additional $10,000 towards show and venue costs for the Kākano funding, and $5,000 for an extended workshop program co-funded by CNZ, valued at $10,000 over a more extended period. This is in addition to the Living Wage Fund allocation, which is for a different and targeted purpose. We would also request that you consider giving us the full request that we had for the Living Wage project. The increase in living wage to $23.65, which will be implemented on the 1st of September, will allow $50,000 to support 2,114 hours of creative development time per artist. With an average of 100 hours per artist for show development, this will fund 21 artists. With $100,000, we can double this to 4,228 hours for 42 artists. This will make a real difference. We'll also aim to increase this with other funding and sponsorship. This needs to happen now for us because we have requested additional funding for new initiatives to support our artists, not business as usual. We can only apply for contract funding every 3 years. And the Living Wage Fund is limited to 3 years, and we want to make a significant impact for artists and their work to increase success and retention in the industry. This will be measured, and if we can show increased success, we believe we'll be able to raise the replacement funds through sponsorship and other funding sources. I'd just like to introduce Vanessa Stacey, who's our Director for New Zealand Fringe. She came on board last year for the last Fringe, and she is at the coalface with these artists.
Kia ora, Vanessa Stacey Tokuingawa. Lovely, thank you for having us today. I'm delighted to be the new director of the New Zealand Fringe Festival. I'm also delighted to say we're the only arts festival that managed to operate under red this year. Also delighted to say that we had a record registration of 183 artists and events. Managed to get 534 of these performances across the line, with 50% of these being sold out seasons. We activated 48 venues across Pōneke, with $182,000 being paid directly into our artists' pockets, alongside box office and Kākano funding. Very proud of the incredible work that my small but tenacious team, and of course the versatility and the tenacity of our artists. This funding goes towards developing our artist development, which we are kaitiakis of. We have young emerging artists coming from education. The Fringe is the first place that they step into their professional field. We have 3 months to develop their artist's background, and given additional funding, meaning that we could hold these artists for 12 months throughout the year, develop their practice and help them become sustainable artists in future, and therefore also retain them in Wellington, would give us an incredible opportunity. We're also aware that there are a lot of money, there's very little money, but this opportunity would give us a chance to make these artists sustainable, to develop new works, which of course we have the opportunity to send out to the rest of our partnerships around the world. And I'm happy to say that we've re-established our touring ready to all of the 3 festivals, 3 huge Fringe festivals in Australia, and also back at San Diego Fringe. So we're excited to help build these artists' careers and try and make them more sustainable in the future and retain them in Wellington. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We'd like to open up to any questions.
Thank you. We have actually run out of questions, but I just want to say thank you very much. And I think small but tenacious is a great way of describing the city, actually. So, yeah, thanks so much for coming in and thanks for the work that you do. I'd now like to invite Jeremy and Nicoletta from Vogelmorn Community Group, who I think are in person. Hi. How's it going? You guys are well aware of the drill. 5 minutes. If you want some time for questions within it, please leave them.
On that note, does the clock work? It's quite...
Yeah, we'll get it. Oh, people aren't seeing it.
Oh, you've got one, we don't. That's okay.
Sorry, it's a bit like the US Supreme Court, but I'm channeling my Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Like beer, by the way.
Lovely. Thanks, Jeremy.
Oh. So they can
I'm channeling you.
Cycle through in your own time. So kia ora koutou, it's lovely to be here. I'm Jeremy Macy, Secretary of the Trust. With me is Nicoletta, our manager. We also have Ruth and David, who are also trustees, and perhaps others online, I'm not sure. I want to thank you very much, especially the chair, for making time. I realise it was a full agenda. However, 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. It's a bit like the funding, really. Some money better than no money. I want to acknowledge the councillors as well, staff who've been very supportive in the process, and also other folk in the room who we've been hearing speak or about to speak. We're all pulling in the same direction, and it won't be sort of news to you that we would love, the trustees told me I had to say this, we really would like more money, so to air that. And I'm not saying, I say it flippantly, but also non-flippantly. It's clear that all of these people in the room do great work and with more money could continue doing more and better and so on. But we really do acknowledge the support we are getting. We're grateful for it. On that note, just a little side thing. We're about to, some of the slides you'll see show a wonderful woven gate and the plantings that were done recently. That was actually done with a precinct grant some years back, which we're coming to the end of spending. So that's an exciting point of closure. Specifically, of course, this meeting is to do with the 3-year cycle. We've had 3 years and we think it's gone well, and we think the next 3 years will go well as well, and so we appreciate the support that's been expressed. And I'd like to now hand over to Nicoletta to talk a bit about that.
Kia ora. As Jeremy said, I'm Nicoletta Mancuso, the venue manager at Vogelmorn. In the past year that I've worked at Vogelmorn, it's been incredible for me. I've seen the community grow and strengthen, people joining, people becoming more involved. And it's become my home here because I'm from Sydney, so it's given me a sense of place. And I've seen that sentiment be shared by so many peers of mine and so many members of the community. There's so many things that we do, and you'll see them in the slideshows, but one particular event I want to touch on is the Halloween Spooky Disco that we put on every year, which is a free event for the community. And the past year we had people lining up at the door, kids lining up, teenagers, families dressed up, waiting for the doors to open and bursting in once they did. We had teenagers sitting upstairs in the bowling club, kids in the hall, parents dancing with them. It's just so beautiful to see new faces, hirers, tenants in the space, trustees, friends of mine and friends of the trust all coming together and just enjoying the space, filling it with vitality and, yeah, I guess feeling the sense of fulfillment that we all do from Vogelmorn. And I just wanted to touch on Vanessa's in the room, and she recently spoke in an article about us and the things that we put on. And yeah, I guess that sense of vitality that is Vogelmorn that I feel and share. And we just want to continue to do these incredible things and offer these events and a space to the community. That's all.
And just to finish off, the group originally formed in 2012, I guess, as a group to express support for the council retaining the hall in ownership. And following that, persuaded the bowling club to allow us to use the property for, as I guess, initially a performing arts sort of hub, but also as a community space. And the funding that has been provided in the last 2.5 years has really enabled that vision to sort of to grow, and we really hope that continues. It's been an amazing, especially like with the input we've had, particularly from Nikki in the last couple of years. It's really brought that to fruition. So if you've got any questions in the last few seconds.
No, thanks very much, and thanks so much for coming in and sharing what you're doing in the community. Appreciated. Thanks a lot. I'd now like to invite Sonia Bismeyer from the Brooklyn Community Association.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Sonia Bismeyer and I'm the chair of the Brooklyn Community Association. This year we are celebrating 75 years of the Brooklyn Community Centre. Thank you to Councillor Flair Fitzsimons and Kim Fell for meeting with us recently. 3 years ago, my predecessor was blindsided by this committee, informing us without consultation or prior notice that Vogelmorn Hall was being removed from our management. No explanation was given after 7 years of complaint-free service. It was awarded to the Vogelmorn Community Group, and we do value your awesome community building activities. But after 3 years of running Vogelmorn Hall, their performance must be objectively assessed. Our file of complaints stretching across the past 3 years speaks for itself. Our submission in front of you, councillors, documents some of these with pictures. We believe that the Vogelmorn Community Group is overstretched and lacks the capacity and capability to run the Vogelmorn Hall professionally. Taking phone calls, starting work early to heat the venue before people arrive, juggling bookings across venues so that a wedding doesn't mean that a mum and baby class can't happen. This is not sexy work. Things like community dinners and crop swaps, they really get profile in the community and they're great, but it is the everyday kind of boring grunt work that makes these community venues work. My colleagues, Julie, Ewan and Philip, have more than 30 years combined venue management experience between them. We know what we are doing and we are proud of it. The last time this committee decided on management arrangements for Vogelmorn Hall, it backed an experiment, and we believe that that experiment has failed the community. We know that officials are recommending Vogelmorn Community Group manage the Vogelmorn Hall for another 3 years. Why? Brooklyn Community Association is ready and willing to resume management of Vogelmorn Hall. We will answer the phone, keep the venue clean and heated, and keep the hall for all and in the community to enjoy. And we will not need the support of council officer time to do this. Thank you for your time. Anyone have any questions?
I guess, thanks Sonia for coming in. I guess I'm interested in the discussions that you had and whether you were able to get kind of any reassurances from your discussions with Kim and other council officers in terms of the management of Vogelmorn Hall and the concerns that you have.
Yes, no, we did have discussions with both you and Kim, but we were given no assurances that Vogelmorn Hall would be returned to our management. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I know that because I can see the papers. But in terms of your concerns about how it was run, did you feel like there was going to be kind of some kind of resolution or movement, even if it wasn't you guys actually going back to managing it? No. So no, you didn't feel you got any reassurance about the concerns that you had?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks, Sonia. Thanks for coming in. I'd now like to welcome Hilka Townsend and Tanya Kotidis. Are they here? Yes, hi. How are you going? You've got 5 minutes, and if you'd like to have some time for questions within that, feel free.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Hilka Townsend aho. I'm the co-founder and trustee of Ikarua Bicycle. With me today is Tanya Kotidis, who's one of our volunteers. Before she volunteered for us, we were able to give her an e-bike, so she's going to talk a little bit about what that meant for her. So we've applied for 2 grants, the Social and Recreation Fund and the Climate and Sustainability Fund. So as you can imagine, the need for low-cost transport alternatives is increasing. We're getting more requests from people, for example, people who are in full-time employment, who are struggling to make ends meet. At the same time, Council is building some really cool cycleways. So there's an increased interest in safe, low-cost or free bikes. The printer who I picked up those lovely brochures from this morning, he actually asked us where we'd move to and was talking about how the Kāwais are really great for his son getting to high school. So we've spent 4 years at a petrol station in Newtown, but for the last 6 months we've been operating a pop-up workshop from Hopper Home and also at the Raukawa Community Centre, shout out to them. But we need to be able to expand our services to meet the increase in demand. We've been given access to an amazing site on Russell Terrace, which is at the back of Swiss, and this is going to open up so many opportunities for us and for the community. So first we need to build a workshop. We can't operate without a workshop. And then we can start bringing more bikes to the people who need them. And it's really important to get the right bike to people. It's more than just the bike, it's about people's mana and their enjoyment. So on that note, I want to share just quickly a letter that we recently got, and then I'll hand it over to Tanya. So this letter came from a community outreach nurse who works with people who have ongoing physical and mental health needs. We provided one of her clients with a bike, and I've left out most of the details to protect his privacy, but she wrote, "You provided an amazing bike for a client of mine about a month ago, and he hasn't been off it since. It has made him so happy. He's a man of few words, but the smile on his face when I see him now tells it all. It's funny how something like a bike can have such a positive impact. For my client, this has been physically, mentally, and spiritually. So thank you so much for the awesome mahi that you do. Truly appreciated." And that's just one of about 400 people who our donors and volunteers help out each year. But that's enough from me. Tanya can tell you a little bit about her experience.
Hi everyone, Milena Tania. I was lucky enough to meet the people through Rebicycle. I now volunteer with them, and I was lucky enough to get an e-bike, which has absolutely changed my life. I'm a solo mother with 2 young kids. It means that we can go places that we couldn't go before, that I couldn't take them because I have illnesses, so it's increased my health benefit. We can go supermarket shopping, we can go all over the place. It's just amazing. And my son, who was having trouble getting to school after the COVID and things, through Rebicycle got a bike. He's biking to school every day. One of his friends he gave his old bike to is due to be on insulin for diabetes. Today was the second day he rode to school on his bike. Amazing. And to be able to take these bikes out to people, to be able to fix them up and help them maintain those bikes, just so important. And getting everyone out on the bikes, I mean, in the climate right now, it's magic. Yeah.
Lovely. So good to hear from you. Thanks so much. Very interesting and inspiring speech. Thanks so much for coming in today.
And just wanted to say thank you
sorry.
to the committee and also to the council officers who have been really supportive of us.
Lovely. Thanks for the work that you do, and I'm glad you've got a new venue.
Sorry to be again, but
you go.
The e-bicycle conversion thing that we want to do will help so many other people in a situation like mine.
Great.
Yeah, thanks so much.
So good. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming in. Next we have Trish Gibbon from New Crossways Community Trust. Hi Trish. You're a seasoned expert here, you know the drill.
Hi. Oh, goodness me, sorry. Kia ora koutou, Honourable Mayor and Councillors. Sorry, I had all this printed off and I left all my printing behind me in work. Okay, I just want to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you all here today, and I wish it didn't have to be every 3 years that we're sitting here doing this, and that you could see the value of the mahi that we do every single day in our communities. And I'm not just talking about my hub, I'm talking about every single coordinator across the community and across Wellington. So I've run the hub since its inception, so I've been up here doing this for the last 6 years. I've also had some of my other comrades. And 6 years ago, we brought you a vision of what our wee community centre could look like, and that didn't need a big building and didn't need maintenance and strengthening and upgrading, and it could function in its community, support and nurture its residents from a very, very small space. I would love to get you all out there to see it as well too. I seem to talk about it quite a lot, but I want you in the space as well. And you trusted us with that vision, and we've created quite an amazing space. And every year we strive to outdo what we've done the year before. And we've been reactive to the needs of the good folks in our community, and we've jumped to help new groups get off the ground, and thank you for supporting them as well. And every person comes to our door is treated equally and with respect. In the past 2.5 years of this 3 years funding that we've just completed, we've navigated our way through a world of COVID, and what did that look like, and having to reimagine how we would deal with everything on a day-to-day basis, and we're still faced with that challenge as it is. And I think we've all done pretty well. We took the inside out. We got our bike trailer. We re-looked at what our funding was and sort of redirected it to make the best of the money that we were given. We created care packages for folks in our community, and we brought together people and were a friend to those who needed it at a time when a lot of people were very, very scared. So we were very brave this year, and we upped what we asked you for. Okay, we didn't get it, and so it's going to be business as usual for us. In the hope that, well, our hope was that you would we could look to do more in our community. And I know pockets are not very deep at all at the minute, given everything else that's going on too. But we could have done a lot more with a little more. And things like inflation and the cost of living, and also the, just being able to run a community centre, as small as it is, it all takes a lot of time and effort and resources. And as I mentioned before, mentoring people and mentoring amazing people to replace the people that you already have, I believe is really, really valuable. And being able to pay people for the time that they give you as well. So, I'm paid, I think it's like 20 hours a week, but it's more like I work 40, and that's with my other job as well. And that's, what you have to do in this day and age to keep yourself going as a family. And there's so many portfolio workers out there too. And, they are all doing itty-bitty jobs here and there, and it's just really nice to be able to pay them a decent wage for the mahi that they are doing for each one of our community centres. And I believe that the people that you have in these roles at the minute are amazing mentors. And I think that they're going to bring around and bring into fruition the next round of community coordinators across the city. There's a huge turnaround in those staff members as well too, because of the demands that's made on them, and it takes its toll on your personal life as well. Even though I absolutely love what I do, and I love being out and about and meeting everybody, my family have to go and check in with me with what I'm doing before we decide to make any plans for the weekend, just in case Mummy has to go out and run an event somewhere. But anyway, you took the courage to fund your community centre, to help turn it into what it has become 6 years ago. And imagine if we were given the funding to do even more and extend our mahi further and further, and to be the most amazing hosts in the city, because that's what we are. We are the hosts for our people. And to give groups the platform to be brave and to do something amazing in our communities, to scaffold the small but mighty in our midst and nurture the vision to make our community the very, very best it can be. But as well, thank you very much for your support over the years. We will do our absolute utmost with the money that we've been given, but I'm always going to, we'll always be looking for some extra. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming in, Trish, and thank you for the work that you do. I'd now like to invite Karen Burgess from Enviro Schools, who I think is going to be on Zoom. Hi, Karen again.
Kia ora tātou. Can you all hear and see me?
Yes, and you've got 5 minutes today.
Great. So I guess today just thanking you for the increase that you've recommended for Enviro Schools from the grants pool. I can see that we are incredibly fortunate to have this increase recommended, given the highly contested nature of this pool. So I feel quite humbled. As we said yesterday, despite being humbled, we would really like to add to that from annual plan funding. So today I just want to reiterate a couple of key points from our presentation at the annual plan hearings yesterday, because I understand that everybody who's here today will have also been there for that presentation yesterday. So I just want to reiterate a couple of points and then be available for questions. So firstly, I guess what we were trying to say yesterday is that Enviro Schools really matters. It's not just a nice to have. It takes a systems approach to amplifying young people's voices and delivers on the Wellington City Council strategy for children and young people and so many other strategies across Wellington City. I talked about Enviro Schools yesterday as a fence at the top of the cliff rather than an ambulance at the bottom. But I think really it's more like a place to be that's away from the cliff edge, that people really want to be there so that they don't ever even head close to the cliff. So it would be, I guess, secondly, and having Greater Wellington Regional Council stepping into the space of employing the EnviroSchools coordinator roles, it's just made a huge difference to the support provided for the EnviroSchools network and the potential for a much more strategic, integrated approach across the region. And it would be absolutely amazing to have Wellington City Council, our biggest council, our capital city, with the biggest pool of schools and the largest number of ongoing inquiries, as a key strategic player in this mix, resourcing the Whanganui Atara part of the network in a way that enables genuine collaboration and growth. And the way for this, to get this really happening, is for EnviroSchools to be part of the planning cycle, which is why it's so important to be in the annual and long-term plans. One of the questions we were asked yesterday was where we thought this money should come from. And I think there are two aspects to this answer. And the first one is that it needs to come from planning ahead. So our work needs a 10-year plan, and we can't grow the network if all the funding comes from a contestable grants pool. But we do see that it could be a key aspect of the funding. And I think the other thing, my other response to that question is that it probably isn't from one source. So that's the nature of a holistic program. It needs to come from multiple sources across council, and it's appropriate that it does because it contributes to multiple aspects. So an effective combination might include funds from the grants pool, supplemented from climate, waste, and the other areas that EnviroSchools contribute to. So we're at a turning point with a range of unusual things coming together right now. With COVID and the timing of resignation of Arahira, our facilitator in EnviroSchools, we have got some additional regional funds that can be redirected to support WCC in the first year if you're able to commit to a second EnviroSchools position. And it's really hard to imagine that we would ever be in that position again. And so we would love to take advantage of it. There's a bit of a conversation obviously needed around that, because to effectively use that funding, we'd need to be in a position where there's at least potential for Wellington City Council to be able to continue the full amount for that second position in the following year. And that's obviously a little bit tricky, but we would love to have that conversation. If we could recruit now, when we're replacing Arahira for 2 positions, that would so get EnviroSchools moving. It'd be awesome for our schools and our young people in their communities in Wellington City. So let's invest in those voices, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks so much for coming in. There aren't any questions, so we might just use the opportunity to make up some time, but thanks heaps for coming in. We did hear from you yesterday. It was great.
Yeah.
Thanks
okay. Ka kite koutou.
I'd like to now invite Scotty Reeve from Freestore, who I think is online as well on Zoom.
Kia ora e te whānau. I'm just going to begin by handing this over to Brianne Stubbs, who's the General Manager of the Freestore.
Tēnā koutou. Kia ora, I'm Brianne. Thanks so much, Scotty, for introducing me. I currently manage the Freestore alongside a small team of community workers and a huge team of generous volunteers. The Freestore, thank you to Wellington City Council for the funding that you've given us previously, but just want to talk to who we are. So we're a community that gather around redistributed surplus food from 60 plus eateries in Pōneke, Wellington. We reduce food waste to ensure that all our inner city dwelling friends have access to quality food, where cost isn't a barrier to that. And we really want to not only have the food side of things, but also become a community committing to the growth of our values, belonging, generosity and transformation, which are real central to who we are. We want the Free Store to be a place where anyone can receive and give. So every year we redistribute 500,000 items of surplus food to Wellingtonians, because that's approximately $4.2 million worth of food that would be in landfill, emitting greenhouse gases if it weren't for the collection that we do, and also the place for people to gather and receive that food. So a whole variety of people gather at the Free Store. Unemployed are working alongside students, elderly are standing beside those experiencing homelessness, backpackers, especially pre-COVID times, we're shoulder to shoulder with those in transitional housing. And I guess, daily we connect in the car park over tea, soup, coffee, and food, and also have community events. And I guess this is a place where people come with everything, all the stresses that they're experiencing in life, whether that's addiction, mental distress, transitional housing, generational trauma, and the effects of colonisation, tense relationships. People come with whatever the stresses are in their lives, it's actually a place where people can connect and with our community workers, and then be connected to different agencies or different places where there's support networks in Pōneke. So we think that this is a real important thing, both for food waste, but also for actually building community resilience. We encourage everyone to participate at the Free Store. So people who come to collect food, for themselves, we actually invite them to come back and volunteer with us. And so we want to flip the expectation of people coming just to receive or just to give on its head and invite everyone to do both. We have 270 people volunteer over 1 year, each year, and that's like 3,822 volunteer shifts, 8,000 hours invested into our community and operations, and walking 10,500 Ks just to collect food. So it's a pretty awesome effort. COVID has meant that our yearly self-sustaining fundraising has taken a hit. So I'd really love for you to reconsider our request for funding as we continue to build resilience as a community. So I'll just pass it on to Scotty to share more about what we're asking for. But thank you.
Thank you. So as you'll be aware at the moment, the recommendation is that no funding go towards the Free Store from this year's Social and Recreation Fund, because this has been allocated to other groups doing a similar thing to us. What we think is different and unique about the Free Store is because we do not means test and because there are no barriers to participation, we are often some of the first in the city to meet with people who have just hit the poverty line, because they're able to come immediately and get food. So our community workers are often walking people to DCM, to the Wellington City Mission, to other services in the city which you support. And we often are an easy first port of call that's low barrier to entry, in a time where a number of people who weren't in poverty last week are in poverty this week. Those kinds of quick and rapid responses are really necessary. So we originally requested $35,000, and we'd like to ask the Grants Subcommittee to reconsider giving us a small portion of that, giving us $10,000 towards the work of our community workers so we can continue to respond rapidly and make those connections to the other groups that you fund. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much for coming in, and thanks for sharing that insight into the work that you do. It's really helpful to get that practical sense of it. Thanks a lot. I'd now like to invite Charlie Caldwell from Surf Lifesaving New Zealand. So like the others, you'll have 5 minutes. If you want questions, that'll be included.
Thank you very much indeed. Just on behalf of Surf Lifesaving New Zealand, I'd like to say, firstly, thank you very much. The support that we receive from the Wellington City Council on an annual basis is excellent and enables us to be able to provide a lifeguarding service on the beaches at both Lyell Bay and Oriental Bay during the summer. I'd like to talk quite quickly, given my 5-minute constraint, about what the ratepayers of Wellington actually get for that money. So as a rough rule of thumb, for every 1 hour that is paid for by council, our volunteers and our clubs contribute an additional 2 hours of service at the weekend. So the paid service goes midweek from late December through to the end of January. But our volunteers are also on the beach on Saturdays and Sundays and public holidays. So for every 1 hour that's paid for, we contribute an extra 2 hours of volunteer time. So important point to note, it's like a 2-for-1 special, I call it, or a 3-for-1 special. And last year we did what we call 13,000 preventative actions. And by that we mean that these our guards are actively involved in educating the general public on the hazards in the marine environment. So saying to people, look, swim between the flags, saying to people, please use a hat, saying to people, please put sunscreen on, look out for a rip, all that kind of thing. In a funny way, if we have to rescue someone, we feel like we've failed a bit because that means that the clear messages are actually not getting through. Now, on top of that, our lifeguards are all trained by our local clubs. That's at Worcester Bay, at Lowell Bay, and at Maranui surf clubs. And wherever possible, they are employed in those paid positions. It is a requirement that they do fulfil some requirement in terms of volunteer hours as well. The really, really cool thing is to watch sometimes these 15, 16, 17-year-olds grow, to see them take responsibility for what we deem to be a professional qualification, lifeguard, and to see them take responsibility for the safety of the Wellington ratepayers and to the visitors of Wellington in that environment. That has to have a positive effect on tourism, having a safe environment. It has to have a positive effect on healthy families and an outdoor lifestyle, and it has to have a positive effect on the development of those young men and young women in Wellington, and to see them grow in terms of their leadership capability. This year will see us do a review of the activity on the beaches in question, and that is being done internally by our aquatic risk manager. He will have a look at beach conditions, beach numbers, what the tides are also looking about, and it could well result in a customisation of the existing service in order that the ratepayers of Wellington get the best bang for their buck in the service offering that we're actually undertaking. We will also be looking at beefing up the infrastructure in Oriental Bay, and this will be funded externally, potentially, to make sure that our guards are kept safe and that there is an environment which adheres to the principles and behind the Wellington City Council's desire for health and safety initiatives. So whichever way you look at what we do, it's good value for money. We would encourage, or I would encourage the council to continue with its support, and I'm grateful for the relationship that we have and for the people that I'm dealing with internally. It makes it easy. And we will continue to look for ways to keep people on the safe on the beach. We will look for ways to make sure that the service is under constant improvement, and for ways that we can improve the quality of the product which we are delivering on the beach, which is very important to us. Thank you very much. I can take a few questions.
Oh, look, thanks so much for coming in, and I think many of us are well aware of the incredible work that you do, so it's really appreciated for your time today and the work that you do in the community. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now I'd like to invite Kate Scarlett from Wellington Community Law Centre, who I think is online. Hi, Kate.
Kia ora.
Nice to see you. You have 5 minutes with questions included if you want.
Hi, so we're applying for funding this year for 2 of the services that we'll run. One is our Legal Entities and Outreach Clinic project, which I think we've been running with Wellington City Council for over 10 years, where we have a project where our lawyers go out into different community centres, Strathmore Park, Berrinpore Community Centre, Newtown Community Centre, Newlands, Kilbirnie, and sometimes the Compassion Kitchen, to provide outreach where people can more easily access it. In addition, that project helps us connect with larger law firms in order to bring in legal support for community groups that need it in the Wellington region, and also network with those larger law firms so that they can support our drop-in sessions and legal advice services. We have drop-in sessions every day. Over the year, we'll give legal advice to approximately 3,500 people and try and mainly aimed at helping with low-level things that you can't get legal aid for and just in all sorts of low-income legal problems. The other part of what we're asking for funding for is to continue our tenancy project. So this is a project that we were initially funded for last year. Since we've launched that project, we've advised 206 people on tenancy issues, which is more than we were hoping to, which is great. This service is around both trying to enforce tenancy law and try and prevent people being illegally kicked out of their tenancies. We're only, it funds one lawyer and some admin support. And so we've modelled this on what we've been doing in the Hutt City region, and we're just hoping to expand it. What we have managed to achieve is really bedding in our tenancy drop-in service here in Wellington. And we've also been able to take on a few cases and represent them into the tenancy tribunal. I mainly came in case there was any questions. But yeah.
You've been very clear and succinct. Thanks so much, Kate. There are no questions, but just thanks for your work and thanks for coming in today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And just finally, thanking all the public participants for coming in today, and apologies for the short time, but I do think within that 5 minutes we got a rich and thorough sense of the work that you do, so thanks so much. Just before we have a break, I'm going to move the next paper, and I'm just hoping to do this pretty quickly because all we are doing today is seeking to agree to refer item 2.1, the Built Heritage Incentive Fund, round to the Parent Committee, which is a Social, Cultural and Economic Committee, and that will be on their meeting of Thursday the 2nd of June. So I'll move that we receive the information and agree to refer it to that committee, and I'll have a seconder from Councillor Day. All those in favour, please press green. When the voting opens up. Here we go. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. We will now have a break for 10 minutes, 10-minute break. Thanks, everybody. Great, welcome back everybody. The next item on our agenda is the Climate and Sustainability Fund, and I have efficiently been able to check with councillors there are no questions for officers, so what I'm going to do is just move straight into Councillor O'Neill moving the paper and introducing it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. This is a very well-written paper. I'd just briefly like to acknowledge Reed Bicycle and all their amazing mahi. We had a quick chat with some of the community organisers over the break and spoke about how widespread the need for this is. I recommend the paper.
And I'll second that, and I'm very happy to commend this paper to you and acknowledge the work of officers, because I know you drive and drive and drive to get applications that are actually reducing emissions. Cycle, work hard too. But yeah, just want to acknowledge you and thank you so much for the work of you and the panel involved. Cool, there are no other speakers, so I'll ask councillors to press the green button if you're in favour and red if you're against. And can I check? Great, and that's carried. Thanks, everybody. And can I check whether there are questions around the Waste Minimisation Seed Fund Organics Diversion 2022? Because if there's not, I suggest that we deal with that in the same manner. And Councillor O'Neill is happy to introduce that as well. Councillor O'Neill, over to you.
Once again, I'd just like to thank officers and councillors for all their hard work around this, and I'm sure we're all very excited to see a sister or brother organisation, Kai Cycle, recommended the amount requested. I recommend the paper.
And I'm happy to second it and completely endorse the comments of Councillor O'Neill. All those in favour, please press green. Thanks everybody, that's carried. Now move on to the Living Wage for Events Fund. Again, I'll just check with councillors, are there any questions for officers on this fund? There aren't. I then suggest that we ask Councillor Matthews, Living Wage Champion, to introduce the paper.
Very briefly, we wish we could support everybody, and I'd like to thank officers for all their work. It's great to see long-time living wage supporters like Rogue and Vagabond, the Newtown Festival and Barbarian Productions benefiting from the scheme, and we love to see it. Recommend the paper.
Thanks, Councillor Matthews, and I'm very happy to second this, and I do just want to acknowledge the Newtown Festival, because when the living wage wasn't really cool or well established, the Newtown Festival were behind it and supportive of it, and it's now become quite a mainstream commitment that many organisations make. But Newtown Festival, you were there at the start, and I just want to acknowledge the work that you've done. Since there's no other speakers, I'll ask you to press green if you're for and red if you're against. You're just in time to vote for the living wage, Councillor Foon, which I know is dear to your heart. So if you press green, your vote will count. We'll keep the voting open for Councillor Foon. Councillor Foon, what we're doing is just pressing through, because we know that there has been a lot of reading and consideration. So we're actually up to 2.6, the multi-year funding arts and culture fund already. Yes. And what we've been doing is just clarifying with councillors whether there are any further questions, and councillors have had a chance to scrutinise these papers and deal with some matters. And if there aren't any questions, we're just moving on to moving the paper and getting onto it. But I'll just check if councillors have any questions for officers around the multi-year funding arts and culture fund. Oh, have I skipped ahead? Oh, you're so right. Thank you, Councillor Young. The Arts and Culture Fund. Are there any? If there's not, I might move to ask Councillor Young to please move this.
Okay, yes, I have very great pleasure in moving it. I'd just like to thank the officers, and I know this is an incredibly fraught and interesting sector, and also all the people in the sector. We never have enough money to go around. Officers have done their best with recommendations, and I have great pleasure in introducing the paper.
And it's my pleasure to second it as well. I always love reading about the applications and are such a constant reminder of my lack of social life, but also a motivator to try and do more and get out in the city. So thanks to officers and thanks to all of those involved. I think it's a really exciting future of events for Wellington. So all those in favour, please press green. Oh, Councillor O'Neill, have you just... Lovely, thanks everybody, that's carried. Now move on to the multi-year funding Arts and Culture Fund. And again, just check with councillors if there are any questions or clarifications of officers. And if not, we might just move into Councillor Young again, introducing this paper, please.
Okay, I have great pleasure in introducing the paper. The 3-year funding is really important for a lot of these organisations' viability, so they can plan ahead. I'd just like to make 2 comments. One is, the next year when the Fringe comes back, I implore you all to go and see it. It is such an amazingly eclectic program of events, often hilarious, sometimes disappointing, but that's kind of part of it. And the other thing is, I'd just like to thank you all for the support for the portrait gallery, because we've now got it up to a more reasonable amount of funding, and they were at a breaking point, and I think we can be very proud of the fact that we've stepped in there. So I have great pleasure in moving this paper.
And again, I'm happy to second, and just want to acknowledge the comments of Councillor Young and the huge amount of work that's gone into this. And we really value being able to support these organisations, not just for 1 year, but over a longer period of time. Councillor Day.
Kia ora. I just want to make a really quick comment that I was listening to an interview with an independent artist on Radio New Zealand. I think it was only like a couple of days ago, and they were being asked about how they're going at the moment with COVID and various challenges, and they actually referred to the Fringe Festival as being really important for the way that it kept them going this year, particularly when things were so hard. So it's really great to hear that in a public forum, people acknowledging that funding has been so huge, and to acknowledge that they did that during the red level was pretty phenomenal. So yeah, it's amazing to see where this money goes and how it influences people's lives in such a what we'd probably see as simple but so meaningful way. So thank you.
Thanks for that. And I think that's so important to acknowledge the impact the arts community have had on all residents in Wellington in these trying and difficult times. Councillor Young, I assume you don't need to write a reply and we can move on to voting. Excellent. All those in favour, please press green. And that's carried. Thanks so much, everybody. We're now on to the Social and Recreation Fund, and I'll just again check with councillors whether there are any questions or clarifications you'd like of officers on this fund. If not, I'd like to invite Councillor Day to move the paper.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they're probably getting a separate one. Yeah. I mean, I think probably at this stage, really, just want to acknowledge the work of our officers on this, because we always, as with every other fund, we never have enough money, and we never have enough money by a long shot. So I want to acknowledge the work of all the organisations who applied, and want to encourage them to continue to come back to us in the future. I think it's fairly clear that the next council needs to do some work on increasing these funds, because they just, hearing it today in the room, there is so much need, and this is what makes our city go round, and we need to support all of these organisations to be able to function, and that means we actually have to make a strategic decision. So really keen to see that change. But thank you everybody for their mahi to explain this to us and answer our questions. Really excited to see all of the ones here that we are supporting, and commend this to the committee.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to second this, and I just want to endorse the comments of Councillor Day around those groups that weren't successful, and particularly thinking the University of the Third Age. This is not to undervalue the work that you do in the community, and I want to encourage groups to apply again and keep sending the message to us as councillors that there is need in the community for this funding. And I agree with Councillor Day that we do need to look at some of these funds and increase them to recognise the great work that's going on and the support that the council wants to give. No other speakers. I'll ask you all to vote then in the same way as before. And that's carried. Thanks, everybody. We'll now move on to the multi-year funding for Social and Recreation Fund. Councillors, are there any questions for officers with this, or can we carry on our same approach? I'll acknowledge your conflict of interest, Councillor Foon, and ask Councillor Day to introduce us.
Kia ora. Also very similar comments really to the last paper. I guess the only thing I do want to address through this is the message that's coming to us about volunteers being overworked, and the fact that we have a system maybe that is a little bit, doesn't have equity across our centres, but talking to the officers yesterday about the network review that's happening, I think that's really key to addressing some of the issues there. Does need to be addressed soon, and again, I think we need to be looking at, through our next annual plan and long-term plan, putting more money into these grants funds, and particularly the 3-year ones, because actually the needs of these organisations has increased, and actually on my 6 years on council, it's come to us every time, and we've never really been able to do much to help them. But the expectations and the needs in the community have grown dramatically. I'm really grateful to the submitters for taking the time to come and share what they do, and it's quite powerful when they are saying that they have such similar needs and that they've got empathy with each other, in their cause. So I want to acknowledge that. I do just want to acknowledge the Tuimata Foundation with Enviro Schools, that there is a really important opportunity there around amplifying young people's voice, and with our climate change challenges that we face, our young people are experiencing high anxiety because of this, and we have a project here, or a group here, which can actually go and help children turn the anxiety into action, which I think is really important, and actually that's where we will see the change in the future that we need. And I've had heaps of emails over the last number of years from schools and early childhood centres who want to be part of this amazing kaupapa, and at the moment they can't. They've just got to wait till there's a facilitator. So I'm really grateful for the chair of the annual plan committee and others who are trying to look at seeing how we can get some funding, and another few councillors who are also in there very supportive. So otherwise I think we'll leave it there, and really excited to see these organisations just continuing to be so committed to our communities. Really grateful.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Day, and I would like to second that and reiterate the comments you've made, and just want to acknowledge Councillor O'Neill and her advocacy, particularly around change makers and gender minorities Aotearoa, and putting them into the 3-year funding cycle, which gives those important organisations some certainty in an ongoing way. And I know that that's been lacking for some time, and wanted and appreciated. And I ask you all if you're in favour to press... Oh, Councillor O'Neill.
I was pretty much just going to say that, but it's clear to the committee that there are a lot of great people in Wellington doing awesome work, and for every paid hour in any group, as councillors, we all know that there are several hours of unpaid labour. So, just to acknowledge, in particular, getting change makers and gender minorities Aotearoa, that's something that they've been asking council to do for a number of years now, and just a relief to be able to have that sustainability beyond this term, that they will get forward funding. Cheers.
Thank you, and I've checked with Councillor Day. She does not need to write a reply to those comments. So I'll ask all those in favour, please press green. If you're against, red. And Councillor Frean, you're welcome to join us back at the table. And that's carried. Thank you, everybody. The next thing is the CH IZARD bequest recommendation. So this is a fund that the council administers, and we make recommendations to the trustees. Again, I'll just check. If there's no questions for council officers, I will move these recommendations, which I think have beautifully balanced the needs of the community and the nature of the recommendation, the nature of the work going on. Councillor O'Neill, you happy to second? Do you wish to speak? Okay, all those in favour, please press green, and the contrary, red. That's carried. Thank you, everybody. We'll now just move on to actions tracking and the forward program, which unfortunately has fallen off my pages. But we'll do actions tracking first. I'll move that. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Day. All those in favour, please press green. Can I just have the papers? Oh, yeah. That's lovely. That's carried. And the next one is the paper that I've lost, the forward program, which I'm just going to have a look at here.
Very short.
Yes. So I will move that we receive the forward program. Councillor Matthews is going to second that. Thanks so much. You've had a very important role to play there. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for the meeting. I just want to acknowledge all of the public participants that we've had in today. And despite the fact that we haven't had a lot of speakers on each topic, be assured that councillors have taken this responsibility very seriously and enjoyed hearing from you about the work that you're doing in the community and a clear sense around this table that we'd like to help you more. So hopefully that's a challenge to those of whom are standing for election and may well be successful in terms of future budgetary allocations. So thanks, everybody, and thanks officers for the work that's gone into this meeting. It's really appreciated. So
thank you for so efficiently chairing this too. Wow, that was impressive.
Please stand to say the final karakia. Unu here, unu here, unu here, ki te uru tapu nui. Kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua, e te arataka tū. Koia rā I rongo, whakaria aki ki rongoa. Kia wātia, kia wātia, ai rā kua wātia.